Welcome to the Food Professor Podcast, presented by Caddle, Season 6, Episode 4. I'm Michael LeBlanc.
And I'm the Food Professor, Sylvain Charlebois.
Our very special guest for this episode is James Maitland, CEO of Les Aliments Dainty Foods, Inc., an innovative food company many listeners would know their rice products. That's where they are in my house, and that's how I know them. Them on many grocery shelves across Canada, and as we learned in the U.S. as well. They are the only Canadian rice processing mill in the country in beautiful Windsor, Ontario. Like I said, Sylvain, many would think rice when they think dating, but as the listeners were here, they are much more.
I had no idea. I had no idea. It's great. It's great to have James on, and he's going to be delivering some breaking news about his company. So stay tuned. Great conversation. The only rice mill in the country, but many more stuff that they're doing for sure.
Fantastic. And thanks to all the listeners for continuing to tune in and visit our very active YouTube page. Of course, we've got our the entire live session. Well, it's not the entire live session because we don't have our interviews up. It's just you and me chitting and chatting.
Exactly.
But it's pretty fun. And for anybody new to the podcast, we're going to be talking. What are we going to talk about today? New to the podcast or people who aren't new to the podcast, we're going to be talking about a bunch of stuff today. The big 5 investment fast track list. We're going to talk about Chinese EV tariffs again, Ben & Jerry's, TikTok. And I'm going to finish off with something about Moosehead. New news out about Moosehead that we'll talk about
yes, that's
later
right.
in the pod. So I want to start with talking about the big projects, the fast tracking, the federal government's first 5 for fast tracking. And I guess they said fast tracking because some of them, like the one Darlington nuclear plant in Ontario, it's already, they're already working on it. So it's not like shovel it ready. I mean, they're already working on it. So they talk about referring it to an office that fast tracks and makes sure it happens. There's been a larger list floating around the internet circulating. I saw ports. I saw lots of oil and mineral gas investment, investments. You, though, in all of this, haven't seen much for the ag industry. So what did you think about the first elements of the list? And for a country that is really an agricultural superpower, it seems to be I don't know. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it seems to be like a bit of an afterthought.
Oh, absolutely. And now, in fairness to Mr. Carney, of course, the Contrecoeur port project is somewhat related to the agri-food sector because they will address some of the bottlenecks down east for sure. It is going to support the ag sector, but we need more infrastructure project to move products around, especially westward to Vancouver. Vancouver is ranked one of the worst ports in the world when it comes to efficiency. And that needs to be addressed. The gateway and corridor strategy needs to be developed even more. And I'm talking from Winnipeg to Vancouver and to Prince George as well. I mean, those corridors are under capitalized clearly. I mean, there's always something going on there, and so we need investments. The thing is, Michael, is that I think that Ottawa is, well, it's a very urban centric government, of course, but 2, I'm not sure they understand how powerful a few dollars can be for the ag sector versus other sectors in energy, for example, or even the automotive industry. I've always believed that Ottawa likes flashy big amounts, but with, say, for example, with $300 million, you can build a new beef packing plant out west, for example, to increase competition and to break up that oligopoly between GBS and Cargill. And that's heavily needed because those 2 other plants, the 3 plants that we have in Canada, are getting old and they get shut down once in a while. So, I mean, if you look at some of the different sectors in ag, you can actually make a big difference with little dollars. But I think that Mr. Carney just wants to come out with big bucks, big amounts, saying this is transformational. But at the end of the day, you got to think about rural economies. How are you going to occupy territory? The only way to do it is by actually generating more jobs in the agri-food sector. So you got to be strategic about interconnectivity, for example, the internet allowing farmers to have access to technologies, blockchains and AI. You have to think about gene editing. You have to think about soil science, animal science. You have to think about also the issue of Churchill, for example, the North. All of these things, I think, should be recognized as major projects, should be on the list at some point.
I'll follow up with a couple of things. I mean, I agree that the politics of this sometimes are guiding decisions. I mean, for half of the decisions, it would just be nice if they got the hell out of the way. I mean, there's approvals in place at the
Yeah,
provincial level. Like it doesn't cost taxpayers anything. Just get the hell out of the way. There's approvals and there's processes at the provincial level, and then you got to go through federal approvals for the same projects. That won't cost the taxpayer anything and will make
yep,
things more efficient. Now, I did want to pick up on your
exactly.
notion. I did want to pick up on your notion because we've talked about it before in the podcast around solutions for example, the beef industry. And one of the solutions was, and I think we were talking about the context of, what can governments do in the face of things like droughts and just natural occurrences that have impacted the cattle industry. And one of the ideas was, well, should we fund opening more processing plants or whatever? And I remember you said you did some research in that it doesn't help that money going into things like processing plant, A, it's picking winners and losers, and B, it's not sustainable. So let me frame the question for you. There's actually a question in all this. The question is, I'm going to wave a magic wand. You now have the list. You now are the architect of what we should invest in. And let's just say the ag sector, because it's an ag podcast. What would be your first thing that you would put money into if I gave you $1 billion? Is it funding a new beef or pork or protein processing facility, maybe a new crushing facility, a better port, better rail? That one thing that you would say, listen, it's not a magic wand, but this will make the most impact for the least amount of dollars and is most viable.
Uh, I wouldn't pick a sector in particular. It's like, picking your favorite child.
Hmm.
But
Okay.
I certainly would focus on one sector, which would be processing. It's underdeveloped in Canada. I mean, we can talk about canola crushing,
Mm-hmm.
projects
Mm-hmm.
that were delayed or paused when Donald Trump was elected. If you remember, it happened in
Sure.
January.
Sure.
I mean, I'd revisit that for sure. We talked about beef, pork in different places in Canada, particularly in Ontario. I mean, there's a project being developed right now, all private money. Now, I'm not saying
Mm.
that government should spend all of it or should subsidize all of these projects, but at least uh, getting people to mobilize or to consider a project like that. And of course, you have the three layers of government often involved, and I mean, some of these projects are very difficult to launch because you're dealing with many different regulations, especially if you're
Right.
federally licensed. And those are some of
Mm.
the things that should be addressed. And of course, I mean, interprovincial trade barriers. I haven't heard that term in a while.
Mm.
I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I think it goes together. If
Oh, I see.
you're building facilities with capacity that has capacity, you want to make sure that these facilities actually have access to a lot of different markets domestically and internationally.
Should we take a page from the Americans and become socialists? The government there is now buying a piece of Intel. They own 10%. They're taking a
Yeah,
vig, basically like a
it's
mafia
really
group.
weird what's going on, eh?
Well,
It's
so they own the means of production. To me, that's socialism. But should Canada get back into that business? I mean, long term, we had Air Canada, Via Rail, CN. We have a long
yeah,
history of this. Is there room for that
Three
in
Crowns. Yeah,
in the ag sector? Should we go in that direction?
I don't know. Whenever governments play around with market conditions, it doesn't work. I mean, we just saw that with the inflation data recently this year with the GST holiday, and then of course counter tariffs. As soon as you start playing around with market conditions, you end up hurting a lot of different folks. And I mean, I'm more of a private sector kind of guy. I tend to believe
Mm-hmm.
if you are to build efficiencies and competitiveness, it's the only way to go. So I'd say the important thing for government is to enable conditions to allow the private sector to do its work, its job, and that's about
But
it.
you
But
know
I
the
do
argument,
find it.
right? The
Oh
argument
yeah,
is this: if we're going to give this company all kinds of taxpayer dollars, we should have a vig on it. We should have a piece. We should have a take. We should get a return on that investment in a direct way. And it's rewiring capitalism. And as you say, it's not what I expected to have happen, but there you go.
yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, in the province of Quebec, of course, there are many different companies that do have. The government is involved because the Caisse de dépôt is actually the pension plan for Quebec, and they actually invest in different companies,
Sure.
especially in ag. And whenever they do
Supply
that,
management, really? Supply management is a way of government intervention into markets.
oh, marketing boards, some marketing boards, but supply management is certainly one way to do it. And of course, supply management fans will say, no, 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 government's not involved. Well, it's protecting you, really. I
Hmm.
mean, so and that's what we're trying to do with EVs as well, right?
Yeah.
And again, if you want to become a global player, at some point, Canada will have to commit to a global agenda, like for real.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
and and again, I remember my discussions with New Zealand in the summer. I mean, their language is completely different. I mean,
Yeah, I
it's
loved
just
how you
complete.
described them. What was it you described them? They're an export oriented, or you had a particular
Very,
phrase
very
for it.
much.
Yeah,
They're
particular
they're
phrase for
very
it compared
export
to us.
oriented. It's an open economy, and they've
Hmm.
accepted their fate in being in the middle of nowhere. I mean, they had
Yeah,
to work to sell
right.
their stuff, and they still have to work to sell their stuff. We do not have to work to sell our stuff. Now we're going to have to because we just
Well,
realized that the United States of America may not be as reliable as we thought they were. And so, but let's face it, if you talk to any ag companies in Canada, they will tell you, and it's been like that for years. It's never been easy to deal with the Americans, never,
mm,
and
hmm,
and that's going to continue. So let's actually take this opportunity and look at other markets. In 2025, we'll now have 4 billion people in the middle class, and of the 4 billion people, 2/3 will be in one region, Asia. And
yes,
if you
Asia,
look at our
Southeast Asia.
top
Yeah.
20 partners, I'm struggling to find anybody in Asia right now. That's what we need to do. That's what we need to
Mm.
change.
Well, that's a great segue to the next thing we want to talk about, staying in the political economy. Scott Moe talking EV tariffs. He's now kind of signaling, boy, this is actually going to be kind of tough. It's complicated. The U.S. ambassador, I noticed in his recent comments this week, specifically thanked Canada for those EV tariffs, which, of course, coming from that group of characters is really a veiled threat. It feels like we got a long, long road ahead of us with China. But some
Oh, yeah,
positive news, right?
absolutely.
We had some positive news this week from China. They paused
Well,
some things.
I saw Scott's Mo comments, and they were incredibly appropriate. I mean, he just came back from China with Cody Blois, and it's complicated. Of course, it's complicated. And my guess is that we'll end up with some sort of compromise. But you just can't carry on protecting sectors uh, against China because China will always go after our ag sector because they know it hurts. And now, I mean, I must say, the Carney government is showing more support towards canola and our canola growers than we've seen in years
That's
coming
great.
from
Shout out to
Ottawa.
them.
By the
Shout out to
way,
them.
oh yeah,
Shout
absolutely.
out to them.
And
Now,
so there
you
is
and I
this
disagree.
recognition.
You and I disagree on something. You think it's a protecting a sector. I guess both things you and me can be both true. Protecting the EV sector. I think it's protecting the overall deal with Americans. And the comments from the ambassador to Canada basically reinforced. Yeah, thanks for coming along with that. Because if it wasn't, nice country you got there. Shame if something would happen to it. So I don't see it as protecting a sector. I see it as protecting the overall relationship with America,
Oh, of course, absolutely. But now, I
trading
mean,
relationship.
Since October 2024, our relationship has changed. a little bit. And
But the
so
numbers haven't changed. You
and
you make this
we
other.
have new
Yeah.
tenants in both 24 Sussex and the Oval Office in Washington, and I think world economic dynamics have changed as well, and so we need to adapt at some point. But regardless what the Canadian government will do with EVs, they will have to chat with Washington first. But I do think that there's a compromise to be made here. I just don't know what it is. But there
All
is
right.
a compromise to be made here because, I mean, the Americans will have to start to understand that we need to start, working with other people.
Okay. Uh, working with other people. That doesn't seem to be the current mode of interaction. Speaking of China, let's talk about TikTok. So, announcement of a strategy framework. I've been hearing Larry Ellison is a big player. Briefly last
Yep.
week, he was the richest man in the world. He can throw off money like almost nobody else can. Maybe Elon Musk. Hot Hands Besant. Hot Hands with all the stories about him picking fights and swinging hands. God, what
Yeah,
characters.
I know.
They seem to announce that we're close, but they're really just pushing the deadline down. They're pushing the can down the road. My sources tell me
That's
there's
right.
not a deal to be had. You just brought it up because I thought you made such a great, interesting point. Remember that cranberry ad, that cranberry viral thing that went viral, and that
Five
was like
years
5 years
this
ago.
week.
Incredible, right?
Yeah, 5 years ago, and every now and then I actually talk about uh, products getting their TikTok moment. And in food, we've seen several cases over the years, right? Every now and then you see a cucumber getting its TikTok moment, different candies, chocolate, whatever. And but the most successful food related TikTok moment in history happened 5 years ago. The cranberry guy, on a skateboard drinking cranberry juice, ocean spray, cranberry juice. And of course, as a backdrop, you heard the song Dreams. So
You're
Fleetwood Mac.
close.
And so, yeah, so it was so that video was actually viewed, get this, 2 billion
God,
times.
2 billion
Yeah.
times.
But Ocean
I mean,
Spray was
I watched it
never.
about I watched it about 100 times. So because and it spurred so many things. I mean, it's just this wild
Mike
thing. So
Fleetwood himself actually did
right,
redid the same thing, right?
yeah,
A week or two later, and I think a lot of people had fun with it. But and of course, the person who did the video received a truckload of cranberry juice
right. For two
along with a
billion
new
impressions.
car. Well, of
Should have bought
course,
him
it
a
was
house.
great marketing. But Ocean Spray was never transparent about how sales went. I've been
Mm,
trying to find out exactly, but my guess is that it was a bit of a game changer for them for sure.
only comes along once in a while. Well, listen,
Yeah, TikTok
let's.
is quite powerful. Yeah,
It is, and it's powerful when somebody puts the thumb on the scale too, in terms of what it's talking about on TikTok. So
yeah,
we can get into that debate, but that's down a rabbit hole we shall not go. All
yes,
right. So let's talk about inflation numbers, and we'll take our break and get to our interview with Dainty Foods. You mentioned inflation numbers early on. The Bank of Canada this week announced a drop in the interest rate of 25 basis points. And what did you
yeah.
observe from inflation numbers? And I heard the Fed as well dropped a quarter point as well. So what do you make
Yep.
of just this economic news?
Well, I mean, it's been an interesting story, both sides of the border. Typically, when rates drop, it means that central bankers are concerned about the economy overall. We
Mm-hmm,
may
mm-hmm.
be going in the wrong direction, so I kind of see that happening. Numbers are softening here and there. The job market, in particular, not doing well. Um the thing is that, I mean, the bottom line is that you have a bunch of companies just parking their money, not investing because of the
Mm,
uncertainty. And so of course, with the tariff bonanza, that's really what happened. A lot of companies are just waiting, and that hurts the economy. And so I think that just central banks are just incentivizing the private sector to invest and to get the economy going. So the onus is on the private sector to get things going again, which I do think it's a good thing from a consumer perspective. Of course, with lower interest rates, that's always a good thing. And my guess is that Jerome Powell will keep his job because he just made Donald Trump happy with lower rates. Oh
Well, his
my
job,
God! Like
he's almost
seriously,
done, right?
5 years ago, it was unheard of to hear politicians trying to intervene in fiscal policy, not in monetary policy. But now it's
Listen,
just it seems
we can have a whole
acceptable.
podcast of we can have a whole podcast on unheard of things coming from our
I
friends
know.
down south. Anyway, it's a new reality. I did want you to touch upon though inflation numbers. So how is food inflation looking? I in my U.S. podcast, they're now talking about the cost of coffee, and they're talking about some inflation numbers in food that seem to be heating up. How is it here in Canada?
It's really interesting, to be honest, because so I looked at the numbers yesterday and I thought, wow, counter tariffs are all over this. I mean, so other than meat, because meat is very much about the drought and cattle producers selling off and inventories being low. So
Sure.
we've talked
Other
about this
dynamics.
before.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and meat prices are up more than 10%, so that's fine. But when you start looking at the list, uh, cookies, crackers, spices, nuts, citrus, coffee, tea, confectionery, sugar. I mean, I could go on and on and on. All of these products are +5 and up, and coffee and tea are +20 and up as well. And those are the ones that really got higher the most, and those are Contaris. So I did a couple of interviews yesterday and outline, because they asked me, why do you think prices have gone up? Well, it's counter tariffs. They never replayed that. They focused more on the meat story, which I thought was really telling. I actually think that media is just avoiding the issue of counter tariffs because it's now so politicized. And frankly, I think a lot of people still believe that counter tariffs, Mark Carney's decision to let go of counter tariffs on September was the wrong decision. But I mean, I don't know if you agree. I mean, it was just an awful decision from the beginning on March the 4th. Don't If you want to apply counter tariffs, fine, but don't touch food. But they did. Ottawa
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
And so penalized. Rice was affected by, and Dainty actually could speak to that for sure. James could speak to that. Rice was impacted by counter tariffs for a while, not anymore. And we saw a jump in prices. I mean, so it's really unfortunate that politicians are downplaying the impact of counter tariffs, and that the fact that media is not really telling the story to Canadians. To me, it is so obvious that it's disappointing, because I think, and I wrote an op-ed this morning about it. It was published by Post Media. And I do think that people need to understand that really policy can actually make things more expensive for you and I.
Well, we're telling that story, and that's why we're here, and that's why people continue to listen and follow us.
Unfiltered.
And
That's it.
unfiltered, somewhat apolitical, kind of, sort of. But anyway, we tell
Well, I'll
interesting
tell you what.
stories.
I mean, I gotta give credit to Mark Carney here, and because I do think that he understood that he had a pickle here. I mean, he had a problem, and on the one side, he knew that counter tariffs were a bad idea, but on the other hand, he knows that his base felt it is a good idea.
No, yeah,
So he dared,
he dared.
and I think that time will reward him, because food inflation. Hear me now. Food inflation in September will be lower.
Well, that's wonderful news. Speaking, by the way, of pickles, I made my own pickles. I got all excited from all of our conversation about pickles and cucumbers. And the first time in my life, I made a batch of simple pickles.
You like to
and
say
oh my God,
pickles,
they were good.
don't you?
You were asking me what kind I like. I took like 10 Bud's garlic, I took a big thing of dill. I put some chili flakes, some mustard seed, a few other little things in, and boiled some water, which is vinegar and salt, and poured it in, waited a week, and they came out, they were delicious. So I'm not going to, I'm no, I'm no Bix, and I'm certainly no Putters, but I made a jar of pickles. So,
Good.
I could survive the zombie apocalypse. There you go. All right. Let's get, let's move on to our great interview with James Maitland, the president and CEO of Dainty. All right, we're back with a couple of things. Breaking news this week. We recorded this on yesterday, Wednesday. Ben and Jerry's co-founder steps down. He's just had enough of the meddling from Unilever about their impact and social impact. Of course, I'm not sure what they expected. Maybe they were told they wouldn't be inferred upon, or they wouldn't be
It's
messed
been
with.
around
But
for 50 years.
I don't know how
50
anybody would
years.
believe that a big company like that wouldn't start messing when you went and continued, whether you liked their progressive views or
I
not.
don't know
But
how
that
he
was part of the
lasted that
brand.
long, to be honest. Yeah, I know exactly. I mean, it was
That's
acquired by
crazy.
Unilever 10 years ago, I would
Yeah.
say. If so, I mean, it was just bound to happen, really. And so,
Well, and of
but
course,
the question
there's
that
a.
I have for you
Mm,
is that do
mm.
you think it's going to change Ben and Jerry's now?
Oh, I think so. They got him out of the way. But will it
Yeah.
change the product, or will it change the marketing, or does it just become another unremarkable line of product? Right.
Well, I mean,
That's the
Ben
more
and
interesting
Jerry's,
thing, right?
when you think about the
It's
Ben
part of
and
the brand.
Jerry's, when you think about the values behind the brand, I mean, these
Hmm.
values were embedded in the
Right.
founders. I mean,
That's why they bought
founders
them. That's why they bought them,
exemplify
right?
exactly. Now they're gone. Well, one of them is gone, anyways. So it was really. I don't know what's going to happen. To be honest, will people move away or move on? And who knows?
Do they care
Yeah,
anymore? I mean, it's a great question.
maybe
Does
they
anybody
don't.
care anymore? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if you like Cherry Garcia, if you're a fan of Cherry Garcia, will you stop eating Cherry Garcia? I
I
don't
don't
know.
know. It's still probably going to taste like Jerry Garcia. I don't know. It's a good
I can't.
question. I mean,
I must say,
I don't
I
know.
can't remember the last time I had Ben and Jerry's.
No, I'm not a big fan. Not for any other reason than I like Canadian Chapmans and Kawartha dairies. I had some Kawartha dairies up north, delicious, and Moose Tracks, Kawartha dairies, and
Right,
these are great Canadian brands, and I enjoy their products. So I I tend to go that direction. All right.
right.
Anyway, last couple of things. What did I want to talk about? Let's see. Convenience stores. Convenience stores are just kind of a funny headline: eating fast food chains breakfast. Now, this is something though I saw. I was at a convenience store association conference, which is just a bananas conference, by the way. Like it's just,
Yeah,
because convenience stores are really, while there's a couple of big convenience stores, ones we would know, a lot of them are indies and, independent retailers. And
yeah,
they were all amassed there, and it was like a conference in the 70s. But you really got the sense that there was an opportunity, particularly amongst the Flying J's and the 7-Elevens and
yeah.
the Buckies, to take it to another level that became a destination. And I was thinking, you go there for a bunch of reasons, and they all wanted to step up their food selection, their food assortments, and it looks like that's happening.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I was intrigued by the article, and to be honest, I kind of believe it. The 3 meal institution is, I think, put into question by the younger generations. They see breakfast differently. I know about you, but I think a lot of Canadians are fasting and just skipping breakfast, and they go to lunch, or if they do breakfast, it's going to be on the go, and they'll be inspired by whatever they see at a convenience store. And convenience stores, and this is ACT's legacy, Couche-Tard's legacy. I actually,
Mm, mm,
making making that so of course you got the Starbucks being the the stop between home and office. Well, convenience stores are becoming that too, I think, and they see an opportunity as people are trying to fuel up or they're getting their fix as they go to work or they commute to work or when they go back home and things like that. So I do think, and McDonald's, in the article, it says that McDonald's sales for breakfast is down. That's a bellwether. I mean, if McDonald's is selling fewer breakfasts, it means there's something going on here. And so I think there is an opportunity for convenience stores, because you can get other things at the convenience store. You can get gas, you can get other things, a lottery ticket, whatever makes you happy. But those are things that McDonald's can't compete with, really.
Big news to wrap up coming out of New Brunswick. Oland, Andrew Oland, the CEO of Moosehead Breweries, announced that's it for glass bottles. The iconic green glass
The
bottle of the
green
Moosehead.
glasses, yeah.
I love Moosehead. I love Moosehead beer. They are shifting entirely to cans. Now, they talk about in the article, and I would know this to be true. We're actually, you and I are going to a very good brewery Thursday when you're in town. I'm going to take you to the Henderson Brewery, which is fantastic, right beside the Toronis. I picked it so we could do those two things. But they talk about the quality of the beer being better. The aluminum in the aluminum cans keeps it better tasting, less deterioration in the product. But you got to drop a tear for. I dropped a tear when we got rid of the stubbies, and I dropped a tear now when we're going to get rid of the green bottle. So what do you think when you
dropped a
do you
tear
like
for the stubbies?
Yeah, I like stubbies because they were unique. They were uniquely Canadian. A little stubby of beer. I like stubbies. I grew up on them.
Well, it can't.
So
It was just a matter of time, I think. What's kind of
but isn't it
interesting right now is that aluminum is actually more expensive.
Right. I thought it was going to go in the opposite direction. When I saw the headline, I thought that the opposite was going to be true, that because of the cost of aluminum, we're going to go all glass.
It's just glass is less popular now, and we're actually joining the Americans. And the Canadian market was unique in that way. We're just basically going in the direction where the market is. Well, Moosehead is going in the direction where the market is going, and more people are looking for cans. And many microbreweries only opted for cans, and so it has had an impact on beer demand, and people are looking for cans and beer bottles. And my guess is that at some point you may actually start seeing other major brewers just avoiding the glass. And I'm thinking about Heineken, Molson. I suspect that, and frankly, it's heavier. And when you think of transportation and the space that it takes on shelves and things like that. So those are the things that I suspect that companies are thinking about.
Interesting. Now, to celebrate or to commemorate, I guess, they're having a last bottle competition. So the biggest fan gets an opportunity to own the final bottle on the production line. You get a trip to wonderful New Brunswick, and you get to see it come off the shelves. All right, well, that's our show for this week. We'll be back next week, and every other week. You can depend on us on a weekly basis. We got the great guests, we got the best guests, and more guests keep signing up to be on the show. I'm Michael LeBlanc, consumer growth consultant, advisor, media entrepreneur, keynote speaker, and a bunch of other things. And you are?
I'm the food professor, Sylvain Charlebois.
Safe travels, everybody.
Take care.